Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at Bulldog V2. And they're putting it on all the videos and stuff, so I'm going to say that it is the second iteration. So it's basically a bare bones kit. I will show you. It's got its own custom little motherboard in there. I will explain to you why that's custom as well. You get a power supply and you get cooling as well. Now, priced in the UK, I've looked on the Corsair website. I can't find a retailer or an e-tailer with this version yet. But on the Corsair website, it's saying £399. So if it was just a case, it would obviously be ridiculously expensive, wouldn't it? But when you think about the fact that you do get the power supply, the motherboard, and your cooling all in there as well, so you only have to buy your CPU, your memory, your storage, so your solid state drive, and a graphics card, it's not actually too bad. Now, it's obviously aimed at the I'm going to say small form factor market, although if we were to turn it up this way, it's not exactly tiny, but it's more the fact that it's for the front room. It's for that kind of crossover period. So that if you wanted something, and you can, as I'll show you in a minute, you can get quite a lot of grunt inside this. So if you did want to have a relatively high-powered PC in your front room to be able to play on your TV or something, because it is getting a lot more commonplace now, especially when there are other versions, but you can get the Corsair Lapdog, which is basically a way that you can have a full-size keyboard and your mouse in a really nice way to put on your lap, so you can actually play proper PC games rather than using a controller on your lap. This is where this whole kind of ecosystem kind of comes in and fits in. And we're going to have a look inside at the bare bones itself. Then I'm going to run some tests to see how cool and quiet and possibly powerful it is. Or you could make it. You could make it. That would be the correct terminology. Okay, so the front is actually quite gloss and reflective. After a little while, the fact that it's a dust magnet does wear off, but it will always be a fingerprint magnet. So it would be something that if you have small children in the house, or especially in the front room and loose, why are they not in a cage for starters? It will be something that you'll be forever cleaning. But this is the front profile. We've got it on a bit of an angle, but if you pull down the little flap on the right hand side, you can see here that we have a reset button. We have microphone port, headphone port, and then two USB 3s. And to the right of it, that is your power button, all kind of nicely hidden and kind of concealed. There are some vents up this side though. There is a fan just behind this, a 92mm fan, which does act as an intake, and that's where it gets its air from there. If we were to turn the case around a little bit more, you can see there is mesh all down this side, and there is an opening here to be able to let hot air in or out depending on your graphics card configuration. So that's there. Around on this side, there is more mesh. Oh, nicely centered, Tom. There is more mesh, and this is where the exhaust from the CPU cooling comes out. When we go around to the back, you can see a kind of, you would normally expect your graphics card to be up this way, but they flipped it round, and you do get a riser card in the box so you can lay it over. Excuse me. You do have your Bluetooth and your wireless kind of dongles here, should you want to use the wireless. It is an MSI motherboard inside. This section here used to be where the cooling come. I don't know whether you remember last year, Corsair released a very strange looking AIO cooler. Well, that was designed specifically for the Bulldog. You could buy it as an aftermarket option, you know, to put in other projects and so if you wish. So that was for this, but they've decided to move on and change the cooling again to make it easier to fit, because it could be a little bit difficult, and when it came to actually getting it on motherboards, it could be quite difficult. You really had to watch what you were doing. So the power dongle was here, but there is an extension cable because the power supply is actually at the front. Okay, so I've taken the two thumb screws out of the panel. I'm just going to lift it off here and just show you, just here, there are a couple of activity lights, and that is what these cables are from. Now, it's not just a single skin steel panel, it's plastic around the outside, and then it has an aluminium shell, and then, or sorry, like internal kind of panels. It could actually be bare steel. I've not got a magnet on it. It's just where I'm used to kind of it being alley when you see it. Might even be steel, I could be wrong, probably is steel to keep the cost down. Anyway, so it's got a plastic externals, and then we've got a metal internal, and there is some sound deadening on the inside as well to help keep the noise down. And I've shown you what the cables are for. Thankfully, they are easily removed. You don't have to get your hands all down inside or anything like that to try and bang it. You've got an extension cable that comes up, and then you've got quite a long cable on that as well. So it does make things quite easy. So with the setup itself, this is exactly as you will receive it. It does come with cables attached. It does come with the PSU cables kind of semi-routed for you as well. In the box, when you do receive it, you will get a single SATA cable run with 4 SATA cables on it, a single Molex run with 4 Molexes on it, and then you get 2 8+2 PCI Express cables. So they've got 6 on with the extra 2 pins so that you can choose 6 or 2. They are not daisy chains, they are separate cables as well. And then that's pretty much all you can fit, on the power supply. The power supply itself is an SF600. I've reviewed this on the channel if you're interested about it. It's basically quite a small form factor, itty bitty power supply, but it is quiet, and it did perform really, really well. So if you're interested in the performance of the power supply, please go and have a look at the dedicated review for that. You may be thinking 600 watt, that's not going to be enough. To be fair, Pete, 600 watt, if you're using a single cord graphics card, you'd have to go back an awful lot of years to get to the point that this power supply would not be able to power it. This is ample for a single 1080, a single Fury X, 480X, you know what I mean? It's just, even going back to some of the older NVIDIAs that were less power efficient, like for argument's sake the 680 or the 580, this would be able to power that. And even things like the 290X from years ago with the AMDs, they were quite power hungry, quite warm. This would be able to cope with that as well. But obviously anything kind of new and high end, it will be absolutely fine with. At the time of filming this, we don't know about stuff that's going to come up in the not too distant future, but I would be very surprised if they use more power rather than less. So ITX motherboard down inside here. If I spin it round, it's marked up as being the Z270i Bulldog. It's easily identifiable as being an MSI board. The reason why I say it's easily identifiable as being an MSI board is because although it's got a different heatsink there and a different sticker on it, it is pretty much identical to the Z270i Gaming Pro Carbon. Different heat sinks on it, slightly bit of different colouring, but the biggest change is they changed the sticker on it to say Bulldog. Now what they did do with this is it does mean that it's a lot easier for you to be able to mount the CPU cooler, because one of the problems with the old one is that you did have to, quite often with boards like this, you have chokes like this quite often down this side, and they can be too close. And with a lot of the V1 ones, that was the way it was, and you had to, when you mounted the AIO, you had to pull it right over this way to make sure that it didn't hit the caps and chokes and it sat on the CPU correctly. Now with this, what they've done is they've opened it all out, so it does make it easier, and we do have a different cooler entirely now as well, because the old one used to totally cover up the top and it was all on kind of hinges and it all kind of sat here. So what they've done with introducing this 92mm fan AIO, which is going to be very familiar for those of you any of you that have had a Corsair AIO in the past, it's just the round topped Asetek model. Ugh. I'm going to need to get some skizzers on that to get that away. Round topped Asetek model like that, with shorter hoses to make it easier for it to be able to use and you not have too much excess, because obviously these can be quite long. And then when it all goes in and it's all lovely, you shouldn't have too many problems. You can obviously got a few options which way round you want to mount it. The good thing about the combo with this motherboard, this AIO, is, as I've said, it is much easier to fix. You don't have the big top, because the other one had the radiator directly above the top of the board. and it was all on kind of hinges and stuff. So you can get this one easier now. And with this motherboard, there's less obstruction with the componentry around the outside of the board, because with many other motherboards, you can get some capacitors or chokes down this side of the board, and then it can be difficult to get this on. You may wonder how it can be difficult to get that on, but it's just because where the components are so much closer to the actual board itself, because it's an ITX, so for argument's sake, you could end up with chokes right the way down here. It's then possible for the AIO to sit on the chokes and then not be able to fit properly. Now, that's not a problem with the AIO, so it's not a problem with Corsair. It's just the way some of the ITX boards are made. So by them bundling this board in, it means that they know it absolutely 100% works, and you're going to get minimal possible problems with fitting as long as you follow the guides and stuff. So it's all a very, very positive thing, and it does just make life a lot easier. So yes, new AIO, and it's right the way over here. They've changed the fans as well, so we've got 92mm ML fans, maglev fans. And then also, by the way, with introducing the ML fans, and they've got a specific motherboard, what they've also done is they've got their fan profile set up for this kit with this board as well. So you can change them if you want, but I would make a note of where they are. But they've been basically set up to try and make this perform as good as possible, but also as quiet as possible as well. Because with the original setup in fans, it could be noisy. I personally found with the original one, it was a little bit noisier than I would have preferred. So this is going to be something I'm going to be paying specific attention to. But I'm actually quite excited with this because, like I said, new generation ML fans, you've got a new cooler. There's another fan over here in the front blowing in. When we take this out, I will show you that as well. Okay, so with 4 simple screws, we can remove this center plate. Now this center plate out the box comes with this wire attached. So out the box it comes with a bracket for a 2.5-inch solid state drive, so a normal solid state drive, and you also have a mount here that you can put a mechanical hard drive in should you want. Now if you did want to take this out because you might want a mechanical in, could be noisy, it does come in the box with 2 other 2.5-inch mounts as well. So if you did want to swap the mechanical out, you can do, but also if you just don't want it in there, you can pop those out. So that's all lovely, lovely. In the box you do also get your riser cable. The riser cable goes onto the motherboard, and then you can screw it into place on this bracket so that you can fit your graphics card. With the graphics card, you can see, if I put my hands underneath, there is some mesh in the bottom for you to be able to get cool air in, but then also around the side, you can see if I run my hand across, there's some vents down the side as well. Now this could be to yes, get other air in so that you've got an extra source of airflow going into the case, but if you've got a closed kind of graphics card, a bit like the 460, but this is a 480, I was right in the first place. This is a bad way to show you, but you've got these ones where you've got it in and it blows out the back. With a lot of graphics cards, you have a little opening up on this section as well. You'll know what I mean with the NVIDIA ones. I'm going to grab one now just so that I can show you. So they also have the little opening here, and you do get hot air coming out of this. So having these vents down here does help with that. One of the things I can tell you is you've got a 92mm fan here, so it's blowing straight in. This is the only active intake fan in the case, but having it over near the graphics card is probably the good idea. Your graphics cards, I mean, that's a 1080, it goes in lovely. I've measured it, 300mm, comfortable. If you had a graphics card that was 310, it may be a little difficult to get it in. It may need a little kind of jiggery pokery and moving around, but you should get it in. But if you want to play it safe, 300mm as a maximum. So 92mm fan there, 92mm fan there. There is an open section in the back of the case here, which was the exhaust for the old AIO. This is open. There aren't any dust filters noticeable anywhere throughout the case. But my argument for that would be Well, there isn't one, but if you want to keep the dust down, then just hoover your front room or wherever you keep it that little bit more. You can get dust filter kits easily online that you can cut up. So if you did want to do it, you can easily fit them. One thing I would say though is if you do introduce some dust filters into the intake side of it, you will reduce the airflow as well. So it's a bit of a balancing act. It just might be nice that you go in and give it a clean, you know, once every few months, just to make sure things are on par. So that is it, stripped down, ready to go in. Like I said, all you're going to need to do is get your CPU, your graphics card, and your memory to finish the pack. And I'm just grabbing mine now because I am going to be fitting, for starters, the graphics card. I'm going to be using the Hydro graphics. And that is why, because just here, there is a mount. I'm just removing, this is a little plastic cover, but there is a mount here for a 120mm fan. So you could fit a 120mm intake fan into this if you want to get more air into the case. But with the Hydro graphics, or the MSI Seahawk, whatever you would like to call it, it's got a 120mm fan on it and a radiator, so that will fit here. They do even have an extra fan header already here for this. So even if you just wanted to put a fan in, there's a fan header, but radiator, that's there and ready for you as well. Then the only other thing, like I said, is you need your solid state drive. So I'm going to put that in that they've sent me to use with it. And then I've got some 3000 megahertz DDR4 LPX memory, and we're going to test it with a 7700K. Before you all start getting jealous and all that sort of stuff, this all goes back. So don't be, you know, thinking to yourself, oh my God, he got all of that just for doing this review. He wishes, but sadly no. Anyway, time for me to get building. Okay then peeps, so if you were looking for some performance testing of it, for me to give you some numbers and like frames per second and Cinebench and stuff like that, you're kind of missing the point about what it is, because the whole point in the Bulldog is you can put your own hardware in. So the results that you get are going to depend on the CPU that you use, the memory that you use, the solid state drive that you use to a certain extent, and obviously your graphics card. So with the stuff that we've got in there, what I did is I did some basic thermal tests to really stress it out to see how the unit as a whole performed. Now with the CPU running OCCT, absolutely handing it its rear end, it actually remained really quiet, to the point where I was almost disappointed it didn't make more noise. I did it amicably as well, and I was very, very impressed. It was hitting about 80 degrees, but the thing is, when you run OCCT, that is a level above and beyond what you're going to be hitting with any kind of gaming, really. Because OCCT is like a very worst case scenario. So I think if you were to have this in your front room, I don't think that you're going to be using it for massive long renders or anything like that. And that's when you're really going to hit that kind of those kind of temperatures. Also depends on the render that you're doing as well. Some of the handbrake tests and stuff like that, if you're properly transcoding, then you really will hammer your CPU, and that will be when you get that. And it will remain cool, calm and quiet with the fan profiles that are on there. I did notice that the motherboard for the 7700K had put 1.2 volts in for the V-core as well, which is a tiny little bit lower than what I would normally have expected for one of these motherboards, but that actually goes in its favour, because I've been banging my heads with these manufacturers for such a long time that 1.25 is way above what most of them really need. So it's cool, calm and collected with that fan profile. If you did want to wang it up a little bit, then you could do that, you know, and by wang it up, I mean turn the fan profiles up a little bit. So if you wanted to run real, you know, push the boundaries with your overclocks. I actually did manage to get 4.8 gigahertz out of this. Now, it will do more, the board will do more, but what I did is I kept it at 1.25 volts. I didn't want to push above. Now, with OCCT, we were in the high 80s. We didn't actually see 90, but we were at high 80s, so that was quite a bit. But if you then kind of said, what was your gaming temperatures at that, it was high 70s. So there's overclocking headroom there, depending on what you're going to end up using with it. The graphics card that they sent me to use in it was the water-cooled one. That was hitting about 53 degrees. I had actually done that with, because one of the things I do want to stress is if you put like a graphics card like this or a 120mm fan in the front, please make sure that you get a PWM version, because the fan that comes with the Corsair AIO, you know, the boxes over there, the Hydro Graphics, the fan that comes with this is one of the old SPs, and that's a 3-pin. And on this board with this setup, there's a little fan header in the corner. It just went to 100%. So in the end, what I ended up doing was using a fan speed reducer, like a 9-volt fan speed reducer, and just fixing the fan speed. I did try it with the PWM, it worked fine, and it adjusted itself, which is what you would have expected. There is a spare fan header on the board as well, should you want to add another fan in somewhere of push-pull or, you know, whatever. But I think you can see that there wasn't a massive amount of room. So if you are going to do it, get yourself a PWM fan. You'll probably have one in a cupboard or something somewhere, or you can grab one of the ML fans, ML 120s, and it'll be epic. It'll be spot on. So 53 degrees with it manually set, but then the weird thing happened was, obviously we're using a 1080 and it's not going to be pushing the 600 watt power supply at all. This entire system probably isn't pulling more than 400 watts. But then, because they've done such a good job of making everything else quiet, then I could actually hear the power supply fan running. And it will be the noisiest thing. It'll be one of those things where you'll never hear it if you've got cans on or you've got you're actually playing the game. But if you were to then suddenly mute the TV or take your headphones off, you'll know it's running. At desktop and idle and that sort of thing, it is quiet. I'm not going to say very quiet. It's definitely not silent, but it is quiet. It's not intrusive. If it was in your front room and it was in a TV cabinet or something, I think you would struggle to hear it. You'd only really hear it, like I said, when it's really been smashing the games out for a little bit. I was testing it with like 4K games, and I even then did leave it for a couple of hours, just looping Unigine, which I use for thermal tests as well, to really hammer it. And that was when I noticed the power supply fan noise. But like I said, it's not mega loud. It's just you know, I kind of think to myself, I need to describe to you anything over that's not silent. But the most important thing is I am actually very impressed because they have made some very good changes to it since the original one. The layout, the actual layout itself is not much, it's not changed, but the way that they've changed where the AIO is and stuff, it does make your life a lot easier. It certainly makes fitting a lot easier. But with the new motherboard in there, you don't have any worries about catching any chokes or anything like that. So it's going to be a lot easier for the mass market to be able to get into and build. The shorter cables and the way that they've routed all the cable routing all the way around the case as well, I really like. But the most important thing for me was the fact that we've now got those 92mm ML fans, and it is night and day the difference between what it was and what it now is. It's now so quiet. Because before it was noisy, and to be fair, I wasn't a very big fan of it. Now it's a totally different animal. It looks the same, but this is the difference between someone running across a load of gravel really noisily trying to storm a house, and then the other bloke being the SAS bloke that is already in the house, done the job and got back out again. It's real quiet, and I was really impressed with it. The only thing that I can really say is like a negative is that if it was in your front room and it was all in there kind of nice, it's going to be a bit of a pain to clean. And because it's not got dust filters on it, then you are going to have to keep on top of your cleaning regime because there's no dust filters in this anywhere. And you've got the open section at the back, which is going to be perfect for sucking clean air in for the AIO. But obviously then that's going to mean that it could be sucking dusty air in from behind your TV and stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind though is if they were to dust filter the bejesus out of all of this, that would then restrict airflow. If it slowed airflow, then it's either going to make it noisier because obviously air moving over stuff. I mean, just blow over your fingers. It's the same sort of thing. Air moving over stuff, you're going to get wind turbulence, which is going to convert into noise. But then also, if you restrict the airflow, you could then raise the temperatures. So I think they've kind of gone with the right kind of idea. You've just got to hope that it's not going to be left in a dusty teenager's bedroom that never sees a Hoover. So it's going to be one of those ones where you're going to need to clean your Hoover bag out and make sure you Hoover at least once a week. I did say a week, not a month. Not a month, not every couple of months. Once a week. If you're a proper gaming nerd and you like a nice tidy rig, as in a non-dusty rig, it wouldn't hurt for you to do it twice a week. Twice a week. Oh no! Ask your mum, get your girlfriend to do it. Tell them you cook them dinner and then they do the hoovering. So that's pretty much it. So the other thing, as I didn't mention, is they did send me the water-cooled graphics card. It's because I'm trying to get everything out. They sent me the water-cooled graphics card, but I did put a cheeky Strix 1080 in there as well. Now, with the Strix air-cooled 1080, I did notice that it was a little bit warmer than I would have expected. But what I need to stress is it's what I would have expected in a massive tower case with lots of free airflow and all the fans, you know, kind of so it can breathe. So in something like this, it's almost like it's got an altitude mask on and it's having to work extra hard to kind of do its work. And, you know, there are vents and stuff on there, but it's not like it's in a big case. So if you're going from one rig to another, as in a big case to this, you'll probably notice a little bit of a difference. But the best thing that I can say is get yourself and set up a custom fan profile for your graphics card. And if you're thinking about overclocking, set a custom fan profile up for the board as well. Now you can either do that in the BIOS, because it's actually not too bad with the MSI ones now, or you can download and use the software. The little dongle that you'll get with it, like your little USB stick, you can use the MSI command center software that you can go in there and you can set up custom fan profiles. With the software though, with the MSI stuff, one of the things I will say is the SYS fans, SYS fans, if you use the software to set those fans, you won't be able to set them below 50%. It's something that I've got a little bit of, you know, kind of a little bit of sparring going on with MSI at the moment. I'm hoping they're going to get it fixed. So with the sys fans, if you use the software, 50% minimum. BIOS is different. You can drop them below in the BIOS. So that's just another little hint. I'm hoping MSI will fix that. It was something that I covered with the Z270i Carbon ITX board when I reviewed it. So like I said, MSI know about it. I've raised the little red flag and we are hoping it does get fixed in a revision. Now, if you don't get the software with the updated software with your Bulldog, just go onto the MSI website, find the Z270 Carbon motherboard, and you can download the software from there. And that's where you can find all your up-to-date drivers and stuff for the board as well. I'm not sure whether the Corsair have got anything on their website for downloading drivers and such yet, but you know, that's another little bit of a cheeky one. But, so, yes, I did actually really like this one. It's won me over in the end. I do like it. I can certainly see it in people's front rooms and being used. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go, oh, I wish it looked a bit more like my home entertainment, and I wish it looked a bit more like this, and I wish it looked a bit more like that. Well, we all want it to look like something different, and I think they've done a fairly good job with this, to be honest, because it's got that kind of nice modular kind of angle, and I don't think it would look out of place. The other weird thing is, I don't think it would look out of place with a console on the top of it either, although that would make me feel a bit dirty. But it was a thought that did come into my mind that, you know, something else black on the top that was a bit angular and stuff, it wouldn't look that bad. And when you consider the size of this and the size of a console and the amount of performance that you can eke out of one of these, pucker. And then when we come to the price, £400, I know some people are going to go, I think that's a bit expensive. Well, to be honest with you, I don't think it is, because they've taken all of the hard work out of it for you. With a small system, sometimes it's really hard to get it laid out right, buy the right bits, get it all in there, and it does turn into a bit of a mission. With this, they've done it all for you. You just have to pick a few components, fit them, bosh, and you're away with it. Fit your Windows on it, you know, or Linux if you're that way inclined, you know what I mean? You've got a few options, and then you're away. So I do kind of understand where they've done, and at first I didn't, but now it's kind of, it's not noisy and it is just working. I'm impressed, I really am. And the other thing I do want to say, we've got Bulldog. Don't forget about Lapdog. If you are interested in playing in your front room or even from your bed for that matter, because it can be difficult with the keyboard and stuff, they have got the Lapdog as well. Now these two were kind of designed to come out for the same sort of target market as well. You do only get like a choice of a couple of keyboards. You've got the K65 or the K70 that you can go in there. But don't forget, you've got all the different choices of keys that you can do. You've got the RGB ones, you can find used ones around, or even you can still buy new single color keyboards, but you've got a few options, and then you can use whatever mouse that you like. And don't forget, with all the RGB-ness as well, I think that's probably the only thing it's not got. I hadn't thought about that. Where's the RGB? Corsair, new product, no RGB. Gonna have to write this one in the diary. Anyway, so that is it. That is my lot. I liked it. It turned me in the end. I would love to know your thoughts underneath. If you would like to talk about the product more, you can go to the OC3D forums. I will put you a link underneath for that as well. But for now, at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with his Corsair Bulldog V2 review out. Ding!